Another application that's been updated in Snow Leopard is the Preview application. The Preview application is a native application to Snow Leopard and allows you to view a multitude of file formats including PDF, TIFF, and JPEG, just to name a few. Let's take a look at how useful the Preview application can be when working in Snow Leopard. I'm going to begin by opening a new Finder window, so I'll go to File, New Finder Window, and I'm going to go to my Pictures folder and then the Creative folder. Now, if you have not been following along through these video tutorials, you're going to want to open these files from the Project Files folder. The same files are available inside of that folder as well. And I'm going to open the apple.jpg image. Now, one note to mention is that if you have third-party applications installed, such as Photoshop and other applications, when you double-click on this image, it may want to open in those applications. If that's the case, you can force it to open in Preview by right-clicking or control-clicking and choosing Open with Preview. So if you run into that problem, that's how you can make it open in Preview. I'm going to double-click on this image, and I'll just close my Finder window. And you can see that this image has been opened in the Preview application. Now, the Preview application is really useful for viewing images. One of the reasons is because I can zoom in by clicking the plus sign to get a better view of the image. I can then use the Move tool to click and drag to move my image around and see the different areas but still remain zoomed in. I'm going to go to the View menu and choose Actual Size to get it back to the size that I initially opened it with. And let's take a look at how I can annotate this document. I can click on the Annotate button to view the annotation tools at the bottom of my screen. So I'm going to click on the arrow tool, and I'm simply going to click and drag from the upper right corner of my image down to the bottom of the stem, just to create an arrow pointing to that area. Now finally, I'm going to grab my Text tool, and I'm just going to click and drag to create a text area, and I'm going to type Fix This Area. Not that there's anything wrong with it, I'm just showing you an example of what we can do with these annotation tools. I can click on the very edge of this to reposition it, so if I wanted to make it a little closer, I would just move it as needed. Now in addition, when it comes to images, I can make tonal adjustments to the image as well. If I go to the Tools menu, I can choose Adjust Color. This allows me to make adjustments to the exposure, to the contrast, saturation, make it more saturated or less saturated. I can go to a black and white image, as well as temperature, just the overall temperature of the image. So as you can see, there's a bunch of options, including sharpening at the very bottom, where I can actually sharpen this image. And then when I'm finished, I can simply close the Adjust Color window to get back to my image. So I'm going to go to the File menu, and I'm going to choose Save As, and I'm going to call this image Apple_annotated. Make sure I put it in that Creative folder in my Home folder. If you want to see the actual path, just click this triangle so you can actually see where it's going to get saved. And another note to make, in the Format drop-down menu, you can choose from a variety of different formats to save this image, including PDF and Photoshop. So for now, I'll leave this as JPEG and click the Save button. And now my image has been saved. Let's close that image and open a PDF file. Now I'm going to come down to my dock, and I'm going to click on the Downloads stack to display the contents. And inside of your Downloads folder, you should have a file called aboutdownloads.pdf. Now if you've removed this file since you've installed Snow Leopard, you can open any PDF file on your computer to follow along with this lesson. I'm going to click on that icon to open the PDF inside of Preview. And you can see that I can look at this document. I can zoom in on this text as well. And you can see how clean that text looks. I'm going to choose View Actual Size to go back to the regular view, and then I'm going to grab my text tool. Now, one of the features that Preview has added in Snow Leopard is the ability to distinguish between multiple columns of text. If you've used this feature in previous versions of Preview, you might have experienced the situation where it didn't really distinguish between the multiple columns. Now in Snow Leopard, if I click and drag an area of text and I continue moving over to the right, you can see that it identifies the multiple columns of text that I have in my document. So I can actually select this text and I can copy it and paste it in another application if I wanted to reuse that content. In addition, the annotation tools are very nice inside of this version of Preview. If I click the Annotate button, I can use the strike through options. So if I wanted to strike out the first sentence in this text, I can just highlight it. If I wanted to underline some of the text, I can the underline tool, and it will underline that text. So as you can see, there's a lot of great features that they've added in this version of Preview. I'm just going to close this PDF document. I'm not going to save it. And hopefully now you've learned some of the features that Preview has to offer and some of the enhancements that they've added in